in this hyper-competitive industry, then let CNN News 18 be your platform.
Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to the Breakfast Club. I'm Kritsween. Well, they say dogs offer unconditional love and loyalty and are the most devoted companion. But the conversation in India has tilted towards whether or not they belong and how exactly. This International Dog Day, we take a different approach to the ongoing discussion, and then we go across to a voice that's breaking barriers around the social and cultural restrictions that come with menstruation taboo. That and lots more coming up over the next 1 hour. Here's a quick check. On International Dog Day, we shift the spotlight to India's community dogs, stray dogs, and talk about the need for compassion and balance. Stray story and the solutions ahead. The Lucknow model, remember, has been quoted in the Supreme Court as well. How wonderfully can that work for the rest of the country? We'll be taking it up with prominent voices working towards animal welfare for 2 to 3 decades. And then talking periods without taboo. Aditi Gupta on normalizing menstruation, how Menstrupedia made periods a conversation. We'll be going across to her and talk about the efforts she has taken, initiatives by her to promote period education across schools in the country. And while Hero Glamour X125 has been put to test, cruise control on a commuter bike, performance versus practicality, which one has the edge? How does the new engine stack up? The verdict coming up this morning. Well, it's International Dog Day, a day that's meant to celebrate man's best friend. But in India, over the years, the story has become complicated. We love our dogs, but we also hear rising anger, a lot of fear, and several court cases around strays or community dogs. On one side are people bitten, sometimes fatally. On the other side, animal lovers fighting to protect voiceless creatures. How do we then talk about dogs today? Not by taking sides, but by asking what solutions exist as we speak. How do we do away with the conflicts? How do we prevent bites? How do we make sure compassion isn't lost in the middle of this entire debate? We talk so much about conflict and cruelty, but dogs are also a source of pure comfort. They also have quirks that make us smile. Even the way they sleep tells us something about who they are. And for those unaware, let's take you through some of those styles. In fact, the lion pose, for instance, shows they're resting but still alert. Let's move on to the other ways that they love their sleep, which is the slide sleepers. That's another comfort zone for the dogs, pure comfort and content. There are also dogs that sleep on their back, so that indicates that they're mostly trusting. They love their belly. They in fact love people scratching their belly. So that's what they come up with. We'll try and pull all of those images as well that depict these sleep poses of dogs. Let's talk about donut curl as well. I don't know if you've heard about it, but donut curl is about warmth and protection. And this flute, legs stretched out behind, usually means playfulness and cooling off. Those are some of the dog poses, especially the ones when they're sleeping. So we'll talk about that. But before that, and before we go across to voices joining us this morning, here's a little bit of fun we've witnessed in different parts of the world. Hundreds of corgi dogs and their owners gathered in Vilnius for the annual race celebrating the beloved breed with competitions and a costume fashion show. Remember, they were facing off in this annual race celebrating the short-legged dogs. The event featured 120 Welsh Pembroke and Cardigan Corgis from across Europe participating in costume contest, a sprint competition, a 50-meter race as well, airplane outfits. There were other rabbit ears, Lubulu doll designs. Some of this was seen through this very race. We play a very interesting report and we'll coming right back at you. Okay, we'll pull out that report in just a bit. There are different ways across the world that celebrations take place. Do remember, the dog lover community in this country is huge. And so we've seen the manner in which they come together, not just show compassion and love towards the cause, they also talk about what dogs bring to the table, how they change a man's life. Like I began by saying, dogs are considered a man's best friend. So we've spoken of the sleep styles, we've spoken of how celebrations take place. Let's talk about sleep styles once again. We're going to pull up some of those visuals that depict those exact sleeping styles. The lion pose, very interesting because it shows rest but alertness. That's what you see when a dog is in lion pose. That's the side sleeper for you, signals comfort and trust. There are other kind of poses as well that we have seen, but do remember that these are dogs that have been treated at some of these dog shelters. These are also dogs who we've heard of. The last so many days, especially given the Supreme Court verdict. The Supreme Court verdict, remember, has come as a huge breather, but still the conversation around this needs to keep going. The conversation needs to keep going because there is so much that essentially is changing in our society. Residential areas have spoken of some of these challenges. RWAs, remember, have been up in arms against these community dogs. The Supreme Court has come out with a relief, has once again pressed on to the need for sterilization, for vaccination, and how the community or at large needs to play a bigger role, how all of us are responsible for getting these dogs sterilized. And our speakers who will be joining us in just a bit, in fact, through the course of the conversations we've had with them already, have laid emphasis on this very aspect, on how feeding is just the beginning of the story. There's lots more that needs to be done, and the onus really lies on those who are looking out for these community dogs. One aspect of the story is, of course, the manner in which these dogs, remember, have found shelters. One of our guests this morning, who's going to be joining us, in fact, runs this kind of a shelter in Greater Noida, and for the last 8 years, it's a personal story. She lost her dog, and in her memory, she started this animal shelter. It's a home not just to dogs but to animals across. There are cows that she's also kept in her shelter, and those are some of her visuals as well. We'll be going across to her in just a bit to really take the conversation forward, look at the possible solutions, and where really does the problem lie. It really does go beyond the legal battle that is being witnessed in the country today. And the other interesting aspect amidst this huge debate, viewers, is also the Lucknow model. Lucknow model has been quoted as one which has proven very effective because they, in fact, have adopted a 4-pronged strategy. The strategy revolves around, yes, sterilization and vaccination, but goes way past that. It does talk about the manner in which there is a need to, yes, bring the population under control, but relocation is dangerous, especially for these stray dogs. And the moment you ensure that relocation stops taking place, there will be positive impact in the society. Dogs are going to be aggressive in new territory. Another dog will fill the vacuum created by the dog that essentially has been removed from his place of origin. And in this case, a problem arises in 2 locations. So these are some of these aspects that we're going to try and get to the bottom of, and why really is there a need to bring in an overall change. We need to have an umbrella perspective on how community dogs and human beings need to coexist in the society. There's a lot of science that's also suggested that this has been ongoing for years at length. And and there is so much more that needs to be done. Essentially, awareness is another very interesting aspect to this, because do remember, there are schools, there are other NGOs that are currently participating in this kind of an awareness drive. What we'll do is, since we're waiting for our guests still, we'll go across to them in just a bit. In the meanwhile, we'll shift our focus to the overdrive segment, where Hero has rolled out the new Glamour X125. On the surface, it's just another commuter bike in a crowded segment, but this one is trying to stand out with features you don't usually see at this price point. Things like cruise control, ride modes, and a refreshed design. Our team from Overdrive took it out on the road to see if all of that actually makes a difference. Here's the verdict.
Now, to say that Hero MotoCorp have shaken up the 125cc commuter motorcycle space with this bike, the new Glamour X125, would be a bit of an understatement, because, well, although it looks quite similar to what you already have out there in the market as far as 125cc commuters go, well, this promises to be the most feature-rich 125cc commuter there ever was in the country. In fact, this is the first 125cc commuter motorcycle to get cruise control. But there's a lot more to it than that, and in this video we're going to walk you through all the features, what's good about it, what's not. So without wasting any more time, let's get right to it. Now you get two versions of this motorcycle. You get the drum brake variant and this one, the higher spec disc brake variant. Now let's start off with what this motorcycle is all about design wise. So up front you get a disc brake, skinny tires on the 18-inch at both ends. No ABS on offer, strangely. The government says they are going to come up with that rule where ABS is going to be mandatory in the coming years, by next year in fact. So Hero might want to keep an eye on that. Whether it actually comes to fruition or not, yet to be seen. LED lighting all around on this top spec version, and yeah, the drum brake variant, well, your turn indicators and your tail light, although they are LED units on this motorcycle, well, you will get halogen lamps on the drum brake version. Also, now you get these nice tank shrouds on the 10-litre tank. So not too big, but 10 liters are good enough for a commuter motorcycle at the end of it. Also, now you get a new colored LCD dash on there, very packed with tech and information. It is quite easy to read, and you also have a sensor in there that detects the amount of light intensity and the brightness that it actually should be readable with. Biggest talking point of this motorcycle has to be, well, the cruise control. First of its segment for 125cc commuter motorcycle. Whether you're actually going to use it, how people are going to use it, whether you're actually going to go touring to use it, and your definition of why you would actually want this on a motorcycle of this category and caliber is up to you. But yes, Hero do give you that option now, so that's really interesting. You have ride-by-wire throttle. That's really interesting for this bike as well, because that opens the doorway for ride modes, of course. So yeah, trickle-down effect from the higher capacity motorcycles, the more expensive ones, there to be seen on this one. And you can toggle between your ride modes, your I3S, you can switch it on or off. You also have turn-by-turn navigation on there. And as far as the cruise control goes, well, you can only activate the cruise control once you're in third gear or above, and above the speed of 30 kilometers per hour. Obviously with the ride modes comes your power delivery, so you have 3 ride modes on there. You have road, power and eco, depending on how you want your power to be delivered and the way you want it to be as efficient. Also, now you get a USB-C type charger port right there for you, so you can charge your phone or other devices on the go. That should make things rather convenient. And yeah, that is in essence is what the motorcycle has in terms of features. Now the engine has been carried over straight from the Extreme 125. Same amount of power and torque on tap as well, so little over 11 PS of max power, about 10.5 Nm of max torque. The really interesting thing with this bike is the fact that you have ride-by-wire throttle, you have cruise control, and you also get a kickstart. Yeah, if your battery dies on you for some reason while you're on your journeys, you can start up the bike with your traditional Kickstarter, or now what has become old school rather. Now you have a 5-speed gearbox on there, rather simplistic. As you can see, the gear shifter, you have a heel shift as well, which speaks of its commuter motorcycle intentions.
Alright, so in terms of performance, I found the Glamour X to do quite well. Now you have a good amount of power and torque on tap, and that 5-speed gearbox is set up really nicely, keeps it very tractable. High gears, low speeds. This motorcycle does it very well because you can pull away from around 25 kilometers per hour in fifth without the use of a clutch. And yes, everything is all hunky-dory. Now, the 3 ride modes, yes, they do make a big difference in each ride mode depending on your preference for power and efficiency as well. Now, 60 kilometers per hour at 5000 RPM, that's a real sweet spot on this motorcycle. You can push it further to around 80 at around 7000 RPM. But then anywhere above that, you try to hit triple digit speeds and it just feels like the bike is moving out of its comfort zone. It will get you there, no doubt, but yeah, it just doesn't feel one with the universe, let's say, at that point. But yeah, I was very impressed with the way the chassis and that swing arm holds up, and of course cruise control. Now that this is a big talking point, everyone or most of you will think, why would you actually want cruise control, a feature like cruise control on a motorcycle, a 125cc motorcycle? But then again, considering the crowd or the buyers that this motorcycle is going to attract, they are going to be hitting 60 kilometers per hour down a long highway at some point in their riding cycle. And once you have this feature on there, well, it just makes it all the more easier. So yes, it does make a lot of sense. Strange but true.
Okay, now we go back to the conversation that we're supposed to have this morning, a very important one indeed, on the back of the entire legal battle around stray dogs. But this morning on International Dog Day, we're going to try and keep our focus to the positive side of things, to what really can be done, how this entire confusion, chaos, and those who really are distressed by some of these community dogs, what kind of a long-term solution can we have for them? We're going to keep talking about how dogs do have a lot to teach us, both in joy and in conflict, and positively impact the human psyche by lowering stress, blood pressure, symptoms of depression and loneliness. And we're not going to really let this current debate take away from the fact that all of this is also something that those very dogs bring to the table. So we're going to go across this morning to our guests joining in, people who've spent decades working on dog welfare, adoption and awareness. Let's go over to them to ask what more can be done for a healthier coexistence. Joining us are Kamna Pandey, animal rights activist from Lucknow. Hi, good morning, Kamna. And also with us is Kaveri Rana Bhardwaj, founder of Sophie Memorial Animal Relief Trust. Hi there, Kaveri. Kaveri was stuck in a little bit of an accident situation, hence the delay. So we'd had to keep our viewers waiting for a little while. Kaveri, I hope everything's okay.
It was an accident dog. A car went over him. The back is crushed. So I had to rush for the rescue. That's why I got late. So people need to drive a little carefully. We just went over them, we just go over them. And the condition is not good. The baby is bleeding from the private parts. So right now I've just rushed to the emergency. My car has taken him. But not a very good chance of survival the baby is showing.
We'll try and free you as soon as possible, Kaveri. But let's get to the conversation we've been waiting to have.
Yes.
You have been running this animal shelter for the last 8 years. There's a very personal story there. So let's start with that. Tell us a little bit about Sophie Memorial Animal Relief Trust, what you all do, how does it work, and the story essentially that you've witnessed around this cause the last few years.
Sure. Thank you so much. So Sophie Memorial Animal Relief Trust, as the name says, it's in memory of Sophie. Sophie was my Indian Desi pet daughter, jisko people like to call stray dogs. She was one of the stray dogs who I had adopted back in 2005 when she was a puppy. She passed in 2017, leaving a big depressive hole in my life. And after that, to keep her memory alive, I opened up Sophie Memorial Animal Relief Trust, which is an all-animal shelter in Greater Noida. Right now, we are the only all-animal shelter in the city. And we cater to dogs, cats, cows, calves, donkeys, basically any animal which is in distress on the roads or has been abandoned by the owners and cannot survive by themselves. So the idea behind it was that no animal should be deprived of human care, compassion and medical care. And that's what we have based ourselves on. Our priority goes to the dogs who have lost their limbs or have been into accidents. but that does not mean that we draw the line there. We have rescued chickens, we have rescued goats, we have rescued foxes, we have rescued numerous snakes in the last so many years, and the journey has been quite peaceful and eventful also. And as you asked, what I have observed or experienced in last few years, from these dogs, just love. From the dogs on street, just love and compassion, and asking nothing else in return. But yes, as a human psyche, we all have probably changed due to this certain, I call them traumas and tragedies, things like COVID, which happened to us. Something in us changed during those last few years. The dogs were always there. Population, expansion has happened, but dogs were always there in India. And no one used to give a second glance. Kutta ja raha hai. She's feeding the dogs. Or the dog is standing. Or the dog is coming. Right now, we have made it such a big topic that we start our morning with dogs and then we end our morning with how to dump dogs. So we have changed in the last few years.
I think that also creates fear psychosis. So the moment something gets blown out of proportion, and for all right reasons, there are those who've seen their children or their loved ones suffer. Some of them have had some bad injuries to deal with. So that's completely understandable. But the more you hear about it, the more you're watching out for when you're crossing a dog. And the moment that kind of fear kicks in, the story changes completely. Kaveri, so if I were to just ask you broadly, if you were to just highlight, where do you see the problem lies? For decades, dogs and human beings have coexisted. The number has gone up and down compared to a lot of, or given a lot of factors. COVID, for instance, saw a decline in these kind of dog bites for sure. Where does the problem then lie? Why is this happening? Why are we looking at this kind of an animosity, especially in residential complexes?
Most of it I would attribute to lack of awareness. As Animal Birth Control Rules 2023 amendment and the old rules also say, we as municipal corporations or states need to invest our time in advertising, in telling people, in making them aware about how to behave around a street dog, or to run adoption campaigns via our local animal welfare organizations. Very small things. Or maybe probably running an anti-rabies immunization drive in my nearby village, so that people who aren't even aware that there is a vaccine which can be given to the dog to prevent a post-bite infection. That is where we stand. Lack of awareness. Our animal husbandry hospitals, our municipalities, they have got the infrastructure, they have got the people, they have got the spokesperson. And they have got that money which can be put on that big advertisement board in almost every city which says adopt a Desi today, right? Let's stop buying dogs. Let's stop foreign breeding. Let's stop breeding altogether. Let's stop importing dogs. So once we start focusing on that, once we start talking about our dogs as a positive companion, they are not a stray. We have to realize that. They are as Indian as we are. They might not be a husky or a Saint Bernard, but they are dogs. So I as a person, I as a human being fail to understand the difference between a husky and a Desi dog. For me, both are equivalent. A husky would have definitely a less developed mind than a Desi dog, that I know. Kamna ji would agree with me.
Kamna ji in fact has two Indies. Kamna ji calls herself the mother of two Indies, so she would be in full agreement.
In the field, yeah. So the point is, Indies have always evolved like us humans. Their brains have evolved. And trust me when I say this, I have got 42 Indies living in my home and way more in my shelter. These dogs understand you better than anyone. Regarding the biting, scare and people who get scared, kahin kaat na le. That is understandable. That fear is in my mind too. If I go out, God forbid someone gang rapes me. If I go out, God forbid someone crushes me by their car. If I go out, God forbid a tree falls on me. There are many things which God forbid may happen with anyone. But the point is blowing it out of proportion. When a tree falls on some human being in India, does media show it like a crazy over and over and over and over campaign? No, they don't. No one asks for demand of cutting of the trees. No one asks the municipality to keep those trees in the right position so that they don't fall. No one makes a hue and cry about it. But the moment a pet dog or a street dog even barks, I would start seeing CCTV videos flooding my Twitter. And then people asking me, dog mother, what do you have to say about this? Now the dog mother says, if the dog is aggressive, please bring them to the shelter. My shelter like people like Kamnadi, you have been overseeing, there are many shelters. But is every dog of India aggressive? No, it's not. Fear is a manifestation of our mind. We want to be scared, we will be scared, we want to watch a lot of hue and cry, starting over dogs, ending over dogs. We will not be able to think anything except about dogs. ऐसा नहीं है. Today's world also, if 1,000 children are scared of dogs, I will show you 5,000 children playing with those dogs. I'll give you an example.
So we need to talk
Last
more
to
about the
last-
positive stories also. We need to talk about the positive impact they're creating just by merely being there. I'll take this conversation to Kamna for a bit and I'll come back to you, Kaveri. Kamna, you have been, this cause has been close to your heart for the last 3 decades and you've played multiple roles in furthering this cause. Tell us a little bit about that. And very interestingly, you are based out of Lucknow. We've seen the Lucknow model being quoted in the Supreme Court as well. What makes it so effective? What are we witnessing in Lucknow that needs to be replicated pan-India to really see this debate end once and for all?
Thank you for having me. A very good morning to you and your viewers. So yes, Lucknow model is in news for all the right reasons. And it's very heartening to see that all the hard work that the volunteers have been putting in for decades. And actually somewhere we are missing the point that apart from the sterilization, there are a lot of other points that also play a vital role in achieving a harmonious coexistence. So dogs, let me begin by this, that dogs are by nature friendly. They are community dogs. They have chosen to stay with us. You'll never see a dog in a deserted area, no matter how, whether it is green and plush or it is a desert region, if there is no human habitation around. You'll only find dogs where there are humans. So they've chosen to stay with us. We have chosen to serve them to, it's a symbiotic relationship. And Indies, like Kaveri said, are very smart. They are very smart. I could just go on and on with their stories, how smart they are. My dog, the earlier one, Kishmish, she could open this latch. Not the handle. Handle, all of them can open.
Yeah.
They're very smart. But she could open the latch with her teeth. They've become so smart that, they know how to make those puppy eyes. You go on the streets and the street dogs, their survival depends on it. So they'll sit in the corner when you're eating at a dhaba or any place, at a stall. They'll sit there with those puppy eyes, make droopy faces, give you smiles. And this is something that I've noticed in the recent years. The dogs have actually learned how to smile.
Yeah.
They've even learned how to react to phones, when you're filming them, when you're taking their pictures or their videos. I have realized that they have actually started reacting, their expressions change, just like any human's expression would change. So they are very smart, they are very sensitive, they are very caring. They have taken upon this role of being the protector. And dogs only react. Like how they say, they are hinsak. So not the right word, not the right definition, because a hinsak animal would only be hinsak, like a tiger, let's say. A tiger in a zoo, even if you feed that tiger, you keep the food and then you move out and the tiger comes and eats it, right? Actually, though, even they do not attack without a reason. But however, they are in the category of hinsak. dogs will only react to whatever you give them. Which is why you always hear them say, the other side, the so-called dog haters say that they will not bite the dog feeders. So you feed them, you don't have a problem. So exactly there lies the solution. You give them hatred, you beat them up, they're going to react to that. You give them love, you give them food. Even if you don't give them food, that's okay. Just don't hate them, don't make them feel defensive, because it is the fear that drives the aggression. So that, I think, in Lucknow we realized very early on that it is the fear that drives them to defensive aggression.
But changing that awareness or turning that awareness into a pan-Lucknow movement, wherein you instill that awareness to a place or to a point, up to a point wherein people are actually practicing a different way of treating dogs. How do you go about that? How do you see that kind of collective effort result in something that's actually seen change on ground? What is this awareness? Yes. What is this message that you've spread so efficiently that's actually brought about a change?
So we believe that if you engender compassion early on, then you become more empathetic and compassionate, and they are clean slates. Children are clean slates. They haven't yet, they don't have the prefixed notions or corrupted by some negative coverage in media, corrupted by people. We cover schools. We run campaigns in schools. In fact, we've covered all the schools in Lucknow, and it's a continuous process.
We'll try and pull up those visuals as well. Kamna shared some visuals of students or children, school children, being asked to submit some projects, create temporary shelters for dogs, give them water, etc. So we'll try and pull up those visuals as well. Yes, you were making a point. Go ahead.
So we've run campaigns like Ek Mutti Dana, where every child will bring one mutti of something, one mutti dana, either rice or, something. Ek mutti dana campaign we run. Then we run campaign of create a shelter for your lane buddy. So these are those shelters, that these kids created out of zero waste, out of, they were not supposed to buy it, but create it themselves. So these are all cardboards or waste pieces of boards that were left. These are fruit crates. Wow. This is actually from Noida, but they created similar ones. This one, all of these, they were created by kids. And there is a bond that you establish with the lane dogs. When you create something like this, you do something, they are in gratitude, and you can see that. We run campaigns like water bowl selfie contest. I've sent you some pictures of that as well, wherein 26,000 children participated within 3 days. So all the schools participated. I'll tell you a very, very sweet story. One of the parents I met, whose child had participated in water bowl selfie contest. So that father actually told me that what have you done to our family? We were actually very fearful. When I used to come from my office, he had a bike, and he said these dogs used to actually bark and chase me when I would come in my lane, go towards my house. And we were a very fearful family of dogs. And then this project came up, and we had to put this water bowl outside our house. And slowly all these dogs started sitting outside my house only. And then my kid and my wife and everybody were like, acha baitha hai to kuch khila dete hain, ek roti dal dete hain. So it started with one roti. Then it started with someone got some, skin disease, and they called up and they got a paravet to treat. So they eventually turned into a full-fledged caretaking family. And obviously all the chasing went away, and even he had complained that sometimes these dogs would poop in front of my house. Now that place became the feeding area of the dog, and a dog is never going to dirty around that. So that problem also went away. So the solution to all the complaints that people who don't understand dogs, all those solutions actually are very simple and come from a place of compassion. Because again, I repeat, dogs only react to what you give them. If you just, the change doesn't have to be made in the dog. The change has to come in us, and their reaction is going to automatically change. It's something that is very basic. We run events, Desi Beats and various events we run. And there is wide media coverage the next day. We make it a point that in the event, not only that we make the people who are attending aware, but also the message that goes to the media is always solution oriented.
So the basic thought is to warm up to the idea, to make it a practice and embrace it, so that it's a community feeling. It's no longer one section of the society that feels that we want to feed dogs, that we want to take care of dogs, we want to ensure that they're being sterilized and vaccinated. Kaveri, you spoke of a very interesting thing, and that line is stuck with me, which is when you said that dog feeding is just the beginning of the cause. So you essentially were implying that dog feeding is just the beginning of the story. There's so much more that dog feeders need to do. Are dog feeders not doing enough? Then tell us what more they can do, because it's also become a little bit of dog feeders versus non-dog feeders. Not just,
It shouldn't be.
people batting for dogs and
Actually, there
anti-dogs.
shouldn't be dog lover or dog haters.
Yeah.
No dog feeders or dog lovers. We have been categorizing and generalizing ourselves. I don't know, giving us names for no reason. Most dog feeders, most of them, they are fulfilling their responsibilities by sterilizing, immunizing, and yearly immunizing their strays. They are also working on international and Indian adoptions very hard. Most people.
So a lot of dog feeders come to you. Do they come asking for help? What can we do? Where can we take them to get them sterilized? Is all that happening?
Yes, it happens. I receive a lot of calls. I receive a lot of people at my shelter, at my home also. I also receive calls from people to adopt dogs or to get help in getting the dogs or the puppies of a particular street adopted. So when I say that a feeder's job is not feeding a dog, feeding is just the initiation of our responsibility. So our responsibilities are going to include vaccinations, of course, vaccinations of all the community dogs around us in the areas where we have been working, their sterilization so that the population is stopped there and then, right? Adoption pe focus, whatever we can do with the schools, with the colleges, with the local markets, we want to put focus on adoptions. 4, be very comfortable and down to earth with the people around you. Not everyone is a dog lover. That is the most important point to remember. I may be a dog lover. No dog may bark on me. But there is a probability that my neighbor, when she passes by, all dogs bark on her. As Kamna ji said, dogs read us. They react to what we do. There is a difference between me and her personality and our way of interacting with dogs. A dog is merely reacting to the situation. And me, myself, honestly, my whole city knows I am not a dog feeder. I feed only to befriend them. Then I get them caught for sterilization and vaccination. And then I let them be with their community. They are community dogs for a reason. If I am going to take onus of feeding each and every dog of my city morning and evening, they are eventually going to turn into pets and chase and turn their way away from the community. I don't want that. I want my feeders and my dogs to be with the community, intertwined with the community. The feeder is there to ensure that the dog isn't hurt or is not unwell and is being fed at least one time. And the community is there to ensure that the dog is taken care for the rest 23 hours of the day. I'll quote one thing from my grandmother, may God bless her soul. When I was very little, when I was like 6-7 years old, at that time she said, Kaveri, I had gone somewhere and someone's pet barked on me, and in retaliation the street dog barked on the pet. Because I was a child, the street dog came in between. So I came home, I told my dadi the story, and she said, Kaveri, तुम जब किसी भी गली में जाओगी, गली के लोग कैसे हैं, तुम्हें गली के कुत्तों के व्यवहार से पता चल जाएगा. And today at the age of 40 years, when I enter a lane, the barking or the way of looking of a dog tells me what kind of people I'm going to meet you. This is not just an example. This is a practical situation. As Kamna ji said, dogs are absorbent beings. They are going to absorb each and every emotion, be it danda or pyar ki roti.
And you're bringing
या
about
कुछ
that
भी नहीं
change,
लेना, सिर्फ
Kaveri
बात
ji.
करना.
You mentioned how in the last 12 years alone, you've ensured that 10,000 plus dogs have been sterilized. So if everyone takes up that effort on an individual level, start with a dog or two or dogs that are being fed around their community, I think we will see a positive change. And that really is the long-term picture that we must aim for. Thank you so much, both of you all. Thank you, Kamna, for joining us this morning and sharing all those very thoughtful stories, something we're going to take back on this day as we celebrate dogs across the world. We head into a very quick break with that. On the other side, we're going to shift our focus to talking about periods without taboo. Aditi Gupta will be sharing her story, her initiatives on normalizing menstruation. We'll be right back.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi's moral stance, suggesting that it may have slightly wavered after facing 3 consecutive electoral defeats. Shah drew a sharp contrast between Gandhi's past and present positions, recalling the 2013 incident when Rahul Gandhi had publicly rejected and torn an ordinance introduced by the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's cabinet. The ordinance had sought to protect convicted lawmakers, a move widely believed to benefit RJD leader Lalu Prasad Yadav at that time. Arvind Kejriwal has now responded to the claims that Union Home Minister Amit Shah is making. He has questioned the bill, saying that people have been jailed on false premise and also false cases have been slapped against him and the other netas, in fact, while cases of those joining the BJP have been buried.
आरोप लगा और जैसे ही मुझे समन आया, अरेस्ट छोड़ दीजिए, सीबीआई ने मुझे समन किया, मैंने दूसरे ही दिन इस्तीफा दे दिया था। अरेस्ट तो मेरी बाद में हुई। जैसे ही सीबीआई ने मुझे समन किया था, मैंने दूसरे ही दिन इस्तीफा दिया था। मगर करप्शन में अगर आकंठ आप डूबे हुए हैं, तो फिर तो अरेस्ट भी होगी, जेल में भी जाना पड़ेगा, इस्तीफा भी देना पड़ेगा। फिर भी अगर बाद में जमानत होती है तो आप फिर से शपथ ले लो भाई। इस देश में आज एनडीए के मुख्यमंत्रियों की संख्या ज्यादा है। प्रधानमंत्री भी एनडीए के हैं, श्री नरेंद्र मोदी प्रधानमंत्री है। तो ये बिल सिर्फ विपक्ष के लिए क्वेश्चन खड़ा नहीं करता, हमारे मुख्यमंत्रियों के लिए भी क्वेश्चन खड़ा करता है।
Who is speaking about morality is the greatest joke in this century. Mr. Amit Shah is speaking about morality. The person who has been sent out of Gujarat for organizing is speaking about morality. We all know that the bill has been vehemently opposed by many of the BJP allies itself. We all know that there will be a lot of vehement cross-voting from that parties. This bill will be defeated in the floor of the House with handsome number.
उसकी कहानी यही है कि अगर आप मंत्री हैं, प्रधानमंत्री हैं या मुख्यमंत्री हैं, केंद्र में या प्रदेश में, तो अगर आप जेल चले गए, 30 दिन के अंदर आपको बेल नहीं मिला, तो 31वें दिन आप उस पद से मुक्त हो जाएंगे। राज्यपाल जी मुक्त करेंगे या राष्ट्रपति मुक्त।
Welcome back this morning. Our person of interest is Aditi Gupta. She co-founded Menstrupedia, the comic book platform that's helped make conversations about puberty and periods easier and more accessible for children and parents alike. Her work has reached schools across India and classrooms in many countries, turning a subject into something kids can actually talk about. She's also behind True Buddy Comics, which helps preteens with everyday skills like time management and emotional intelligence. So let's quickly go across to her. Good morning, Aditi. Hi, hope you're doing well. Thank you for sparing the time. Wonderful that somebody's taking conversations like menstruation to the mainstream. Tell us what that journey's been like. It's been last few years of trying to normalize periods, menstruation, puberty. How has the experience been and what have been the biggest takeaways from the journey so far? If you were to just sum up for us, you know, what more needs to be done? Where are we lagging behind as a country? What would you say?
Right. Thank you so much for having me and good morning. Have a great morning. The journey has been really amazing. I think I started Menstrupedia because of my own experience of facing the taboo. You know, when I was growing up in this small town in Garhwa, this is in Jharkhand, where my parents were so supportive and so loving. Still, there were so many taboos. The school did not teach about periods. And then cut to now, where menstruation has become, it has become a trendy topic. People are talking more and more about it. And 37,000 schools teaching girls about periods. The other day I was talking to this one researcher and we were talking about what more can be done. And I think taking the menstrual education drive to the last mile is something that I see that there is a lot of scope of work there. And I was sharing with her that, there is always this diagram in the schools which talks about, my respiratory system and my digestive system, how my lungs work and how my food gets digested. And if there could be a diagram of just our reproductive system, there is absolutely nothing taboo about it. Imagine this having in every classroom where where your uterus is, where where your ovaries are, and how the whole process of menstruation happens, not only for girls but also for boys. And this simple thing, just keeping this in every single school would change our perception. Girls will grow up knowing where their uterus is, where their ovaries are, how their period cycle works, and this can help in dealing with so much of period disorders that we are seeing right now. Girls have started getting their periods much earlier. So we need to buck up as a country, because we have started talking about periods, and that is amazing. Good, India. But at the same time, I think we have to become a little bit more proactive. Still, the chapter which talks about periods comes much later in the class. It is not coming because teaching the girls about periods after they have started getting their periods is disaster management. The girls must know about their bodies and what is happening and what to expect during their periods, I think, before they have started getting their periods.
I love the energy you're bringing to the show this morning, Aditi. So thank you for that great energy and the conversation we've taken up today. But if one were to ask you, tell us a little bit about Menstrupedia. How does it help make this conversation simpler? It brings this conversation to the mainstream. How are you enabling that through this initiative? What's also wonderful is that you're doing this with your husband, because bringing men into this entire conversation is so very important, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think we should always look as India as pre-Menstrupedia era and post-Menstrupedia era. Menstrupedia, the first time ever we established that a positive conversation about menstruation is possible. So think about an India which was before 2012. The ad jingle will go like, I'm down, laga chundri mein daag. But when you think about periods, I mean, I and you would have not been talking because if our mothers did not get periods. So we are here because my mothers get period, they could conceive us, we could be in that umbilical fluid, nurturing us for 9 months. So, and periods should have been celebrated, but shame was used to sell menstruation. Shame was used to talk about menstruation largely. It was a very limiting thing. So what Menstrupedia did with their work is that we established that it is possible to have a positive conversation around periods. And when you have a positive conversation around periods, and when you talk about positively about a subject, the taboo nature of the subject goes, and you start feeling very empowered about it. It has to do a lot with, a lot of things are attached to it. If a woman or a girl can't even talk about her natural biological process, how is she ever going to talk about any violence that she faces on her body?
Yeah. 100%.
It's the conversation of periods opened the door for more connection to parents, more acceptance of girls, of their own body. And when Menstrupedia established this, with beautiful illustrations, cartoon characters, building a safe environment for people to talk about periods, big brands started to pick up this particular cue, and they said, okay, we are going to talk positively about it. Maybe breaking the taboo is the right way of selling our product also. So, and then when it went to popular culture, people started making films about it. Everybody then joined the movement. It became like a movement. Everybody said, yeah, it is possible. I think it was around the same time when the feminist tsunami after the Delhi gang rape case, where this feminist tsunami came to our country, where everybody became proactive, that we have to talk about women rights. We have to raise women where they're not shameful about their own body. And talking about periods and empowering the girl is really the first step to do that. Even in
I love how you say that
society.
So much of this is actually about women empowerment as well. And if I were to give you a responsibility, Aditi, how would you do it any differently? You spoke of how the ad culture around selling sanitary napkins has also evolved over the years. If you were to come up with a brand and you were to give it a punchline, and we'll end on that positive note, what would be your selling line for a sanitary napkin?
I think already the brands are already doing it. First of all, any sanitary napkin ad has to have the red fluid. We don't bleed blue, we bleed red, and it is the source of life. Other than that, I think again, keeping it very real, celebrating periods, being.
So, do we have a line on top of your mind? Is there a line that comes to your conscience? No.
No. No.
Okay. So we'll give you some time. We'll possibly chat once again in a few days.
I would
come back to you.
I would definitely talk to the parents listening to this. So I would definitely directly talk to the parents, because I think that I would like to invest in the girls that they are raising, and I would like to tell them that, dear parents, if you would be ashamed of your periods, your daughters would be too. So please be period positive.
Okay, be period positive. Love that. Thank you so much, Aditi, for joining us this morning and sharing that wonderful story, and for the brilliant initiative you've been working for the last so many days. Thank you. With that, we head into a very quick break. We're not done as yet. We'll be right back. Keep watching.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi's moral stance, suggesting that it may have slightly wavered after facing 3 consecutive electoral defeats. Shah drew a sharp contrast between Gandhi's past and present positions, recalling the 2013 incident when Rahul Gandhi had publicly rejected and torn an ordinance introduced by the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's cabinet. The ordinance had sought to protect convicted lawmakers, a move widely believed to benefit RJD leader Lalu Prasad Yadav at that time. Arvind Kejriwal has now responded to the claims that Union Home Minister Amit Shah is making. He has questioned the bill, saying that people have been jailed on false premise and also false cases have been slapped against him and the other netas, in fact, while cases of those joining the BJP have been buried.
आरोप लगा और जैसे ही मुझे समन आया, अरेस्ट छोड़ दीजिए, सीबीआई ने मुझे समन किया, मैंने दूसरे ही दिन इस्तीफा दे दिया था। अरेस्ट तो मेरी बाद में हुई। जैसे ही सीबीआई ने मुझे समन किया था, मैंने दूसरे ही दिन इस्तीफा दिया था। मगर करप्शन में अगर आकंठ आप डूबे हुए हैं तो फिर तो अरेस्ट भी होगी, जेल में भी जाना पड़ेगा, इस्तीफा भी देना पड़ेगा। फिर भी अगर बाद में जमानत होती है तो आप फिर से शपथ ले लो भाई। इस देश में
Welcome back. Now taking you through some other stories we're tracking from across the country and around the world. Central Board of Secondary Education or CBSE will host a series of offline parenting workshops starting the 4th of September up until 18th. This is essentially aimed at strengthening the partnership between parents and schools and promoting students' overall well-being. These workshops build upon the CBSE Parenting Calendar 25-26 launched earlier this year and will follow orientation sessions, which is, remember, something we saw in May and June. The workshops will be conducted at selected CBSE affiliated schools in Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Siliguri, Ludhiana and Indore. Air Chief Marshal AP Singh and some of the pilots of the Indian Air Force took a few sorties in the last of the legendary Russian origin MiG-21 fighter jets. This has marked an emotional moment ahead of the official retirement of the fighter jets next month. The Indian Air Force's MiG-21, which has been the heart of India's combat aviation for more than 6 decades, made its final operational flights at the Null Air Force Station in Bikaner on the 18th and 19th, a month ahead of the formal retirement ceremony, which will take place in Chandigarh on the 26th of September. Air Chief Marshal flew solo sorties of the aging supersonic jet last weekend at an event marking the beginning of the end of a 6-decade association with the MiGs. Couples from across the world showcased their talent at the Buenos Aires Tango World Championship. This happened on the 25th at Argentina's premier tango event. The event is part of a 2-week festival in the Argentine capital, featuring over 500 activities and performances by acclaimed artists. City officials described it as the world's largest tango gathering, celebrating a dance form that originated in Buenos Aires' working-class neighborhoods in the late 19th century and has since gained global recognition. The festival will run until the 2nd of September. Revelers, dancers and musicians fill the streets of West London, as you see on your screens, on Monday for the annual Notting Hill Carnival, one of the world's largest street parties. Notting Hill resident Christian Bookery says the community pours their hearts into this event, and it is an important reminder of tolerance and diversity at a time when the UK sees anti-migrant protests spring up around the country. The 57th edition of the carnival, which celebrates cities' diversity and how generations of migrants and their descendants have contributed to British society, was expected to attract more than 1 million people. And one of Colombo's parks was transformed into a spectacle of colours. Thousands of kite enthusiasts gathered for the Colombo International Kite Festival. The event, which draws participants from around the world, saw hundreds of multicoloured kites adorn the skies of the Sri Lankan capital. 55 international participants from 25 countries joined over 500 local kite flyers to showcase their creativity and skill.
Roots lead back to Africa. It's where we first separated from the African apes. It's where we first stood up. It's where our brains first grew large. Where we first.
Russia's first giant panda cub, Katyusha, marked her second birthday with a festive celebration at the Moscow Zoo. This was born to Ding Ding and Rui, a pair of pandas on loan from China, and has become the first ever baby giant panda born in Russia on her second birthday. She was gifted with special cake made of fruit, ice and bamboo. She ate the cake in front of the crowds of Moscow Zoo visitors taking pictures of her. All right, that's all we could pack for you in this edition of The Breakfast Club. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And do keep sending out your suggestions for the rest of the week. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
All right, Trump administration outlined plans to implement a 50% tariff on products from India in a draft notice published yesterday. The notice posted by the Department of Homeland Security said that the increased levies would hit Indian products that are entered for consumption or withdrawn from the warehouse for consumption on or after 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on August 27, 2025. So this is the additional levy which United States had charged India with for buying that Russian oil. My colleague Akanksha is with us. Akanksha, what are the sectors, what are the products that are going to literally impact through this additional levy which is going to commence from 27th of August?
Right. This is in fact a levy, an additional levy, Arun, which is impacting India in the sense this is also to bring Russia to the negotiating table, because remember, this set of additional 25% tariffs Donald Trump had made amply clear is only because India is continuing with its purchase of Russian crude oil, and this is to bring down what they call Putin's fund for his war machinery.
Hello and good morning. Thank you for tuning into CNN News 18. I'm Shen Elizabeth Matthew. Let's begin this bulletin with the headlines at top of 9 a.m. today. Prime Minister Modi's strong message as Trump's 50% tariff looms, vows to support small entrepreneurs and farmers.